What if I told you the fear that controls your life is only an illusion? Imagine walking through your day free, calm, and untouchable. Imagine for just a moment a life where fear no longer controls you, a life where you wake up each morning with steady calm, where challenges appear not as threats but as invitations to grow. Can you picture yourself stepping into that kind of freedom? For over 2,500 years, Buddhist wisdom has been guiding people toward this exact transformation. It's not about escaping life or pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about learning how to meet fear with awareness and slowly to dissolve its grip. And in today's journey together, we will explore 8 timeless lessons from the Buddha, teachings that can help you face your fears, cultivate courage, and reclaim the peace that has always been waiting inside you. Fear is something we all know too well. Maybe it's the fear of losing someone you love, the fear of failure, the fear of growing old, or even the fear of not being enough. Fear shows up in so many forms, yet the truth is, it's only as strong as the power we give it. Think of fear like a shadow on the wall. When the light shines, the shadow disappears. In the same way, when awareness shines on fear, it begins to lose its shape. Buddhism offers us practical ways to bring that light into our daily lives. These lessons aren't abstract ideas locked in old scriptures. They are living tools that can guide us through everyday struggles, whether it's stress at work, conflict in relationships, or the quiet anxieties that visit us in the middle of the night. As we move through these 8 lessons, you'll notice they are less about fighting fear and more about transforming your relationship with it. Because fear itself is not the enemy, it's a teacher. It shows us where we cling, where we resist change, and where we long for control. When we learn to see it with fresh eyes, fear becomes an opportunity for wisdom. So as you listen, I invite you to reflect. What is the fear that has been holding you back lately? Is it keeping you from speaking your truth, from taking a leap, or from simply resting in peace with who you are? Let these questions sit with you, because the answers will unfold as we walk together through these teachings. By the end of this video, you may not just think differently about fear, you may begin to feel differently. You may start to realize that freedom is not waiting somewhere in the future. It is available right here, in this very breath. Today, we will arrive at the first lesson in our journey together, welcoming change as a friend. Fear often grows from our refusal to let life move. We cling to the way things are, hoping that joy will stay forever and that pain will never return. But the Buddha taught us a truth that is both challenging and liberating. Everything changes. Nothing is fixed. Life flows like a river that never stops, and our suffering comes when we try to hold the water in our hands. Think about it. How many moments in your life have you feared losing? A relationship, your health, a job, or even your youth? And yet, despite your efforts, time carried them forward. That is impermanence. But here's the gift. Impermanence does not only take away, it also heals. Just as happiness doesn't last forever, neither does pain. Every wound you've ever carried has softened over time. Every storm has eventually passed. The very fact that you are here, listening now, is proof that you have survived countless changes already. When we stop resisting impermanence and begin to welcome it, fear starts to loosen its grip. Imagine walking into your day not demanding that life stay the same, but meeting each moment with curiosity. What will this teach me? What will this bring? Suddenly, change no longer feels like a threat. It becomes a teacher. The Zen masters often remind us to look at nature for wisdom. Watch the falling leaves in autumn. They do not cling to the tree, nor does the tree cling to them. They fall gracefully, making way for winter, and eventually for spring again. If nature itself surrenders to the rhythm of impermanence, why do we fight so hard against it? Here's a simple practice you can try. The next time you notice fear arising, pause and observe something changing around you. It could be the sky turning from blue to dusk, a flower slowly wilting, or even your breath moving in and out. Let it remind you nothing is permanent, not even the fear you are feeling right now. Ask yourself, what if I stopped clinging and simply trusted the flow? This question alone can be a doorway to freedom. When we embrace impermanence, we discover peace in the present moment. We stop measuring life by what we can hold on to, and instead we begin to live fully in what is here, right now. That is the gift of this first Buddhist lesson. Freedom not from change, but through change. Just as impermanence shows us that nothing stays the same forever, it also prepares us for the next truth we must face. And that brings us to the next part of today's journey, unmasking the shadow of fear. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. Yet if we look closer, most of the time it is built on illusions. Think about it. How often do we become afraid not because of what is happening right now, but because of the what if? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if they reject me? These scenarios exist only in the theater of the mind, yet they cause our hearts to race and our bodies to tighten as though the danger were real. Imagine standing at the edge of a high cliff. Your heart pounds, your palms sweat, your breath grows shallow. But in truth, you are not in danger. You are standing safely on solid ground. The fear arises not from reality, but from your mind projecting images of falling. This is the illusion of fear. It is like a shadow. It looks dark and intimidating, but it has no substance of its own. When light shines upon it, the shadow disappears. The Buddha taught that awareness is this light. When we turn our attention to the present, when we ask what is truly happening right now, we often discover that there is no real threat. The lion we imagine is not in the room with us. The danger is not here. It is only in thought. And once we see that, fear begins to lose its control. But seeing fear as illusion does not mean ignoring it. In fact, it means turning toward it with courage and curiosity. When you feel fear rising, pause and gently ask yourself, is this fear based on what is actually here or only on a story in my mind? Most of the time, you will realize the fear is just smoke and mirrors. Zen practice often encourages us to sit with fear like we would sit with a guest. If fear knocks on the door of your mind, instead of panicking, open the door and say, "Come in, show me what you have." More often than not, you'll find that fear has nothing real to show you. It dissolves under the light of mindful attention. This shift is not about becoming fearless, but about seeing clearly. Fear may still appear, but you no longer mistake it for the truth. It's like waking up from a nightmare. Your body may still feel shaken, but you now know it was only a dream. Here is a practice you can try. The next time your mind spins stories of what if, gently return to your senses. Notice your feet on the floor. Feel the breath moving in and out. Listen to the sounds around you. Anchor yourself in what is real. In this simple act of returning, you cut through the illusion and the shadow of fear fades. Remember, fear is not the enemy. It is simply a messenger. It tells us where our mind is clinging to the unreal. When we recognize its illusions, we reclaim our freedom. This is the gift of the second Buddhist lesson, that most fears are shadows, and with the light of awareness, we can walk through them into peace. When we realize that fear is often just a shadow of the mind, we naturally ask, how can we keep ourselves steady so that shadows do not overwhelm us again? This question leads us deeper into the path of wisdom, and we will go to the next part of today's journey, rooting yourself in mindfulness. Fear thrives in the past and the future. It grows from regrets of what has already happened and from anxieties of what might still come. But rarely does fear live in the present moment itself. If you look closely, you'll see, right here, right now, in this very breath, most of the time you're safe. The danger is almost never in the moment. It is in the mind's habit of leaving the present and wandering elsewhere. This is why mindfulness is the antidote to fear. Mindfulness is not simply a meditation technique. It is a way of living fully awake in the present. To be mindful means to notice what is happening in your body, in your mind, and around you, without judgment and without running away. It means looking at fear, naming it softly. Ah, this is fear. And by naming it, you already loosen its grip. Think about how we usually react to fear. We push it away, suppress it, or let it take control of us. But the Buddha taught another way, to sit with fear as we would sit with a child crying. Instead of rejecting it, we acknowledge it. When fear arises, say gently to yourself, "Hello, fear, I see you." Then turn your attention to the breath. Each inhale and exhale becomes an anchor, reminding you that you are here, now, alive, and safe. Mindfulness does not erase fear instantly. What it does is create space, space between the stimulus and your reaction. Instead of being dragged by fear into panic or anger, you gain the freedom to choose your response. Imagine being in an argument. Instead of letting fear of rejection push you to shout or withdraw, mindfulness allows you to pause, breathe, and respond with clarity. That pause, that awareness, is the beginning of freedom. A practical exercise. The next time fear visits you, stop for a moment. Place your hand gently on your chest and breathe deeply. Notice the pounding of your heart, the tightness in your body. Don't fight it, just observe it as it is. Whisper inside, "This is fear, and I am breathing with it." Slowly, you'll notice the intensity softens. This is the power of mindfulness. It transforms fear not by force, but by presence. Mindfulness is like the eye of a storm. Around you, the winds of fear may still blow, but at the center, there is calm. The more you practice, the more you can stay in that calm center, watching the storm without being swept away. This is not detachment in the sense of being cold or numb. It is clarity. It is the strength to feel fully without being controlled by what you feel. Science today confirms what the Buddha taught thousands of years ago. Mindfulness lowers anxiety, reduces stress, and rewires the brain for resilience. But beyond science, it gives you something even more precious: the ability to reclaim your life from fear. Instead of being a prisoner of thoughts about yesterday or worries about tomorrow, you return home to the only place you can ever truly live, the present moment. And so the third lesson reminds us, mindfulness is not a luxury, but a necessity for a fearless life. By rooting ourselves in the present, we no longer let fear dictate the course of our days. Instead, we stand steady, breathe deeply, and move with clarity. As we move forward on this journey of inner discovery, let's carry the calm and clarity gained from mindfulness into the next teaching. Smoothly flowing from the practice of staying present, we will now step into the next part of today's video. Recognizing the truth of suffering. Fear often feels like a personal prison, unique to our own struggles. Yet when we pause and reflect, we begin to see that fear is just one expression of a much greater reality: suffering. Suffering is not an exception, nor is it a sign that something has gone terribly wrong with life. It is part of the very fabric of existence. The Buddha taught that suffering is universal. It arises in countless forms: the fear of loss, the anxiety of uncertainty, the ache of unfulfilled desires, the sadness of separation. When we encounter fear, it is simply one doorway into the vast landscape of human vulnerability. Understanding the nature of suffering does not mean we drown in it. Rather, it gives us perspective. Think of it like standing in the rain. At first, the drops feel cold and sharp, and we resist, wishing for sunshine. But if we accept that rain is a natural part of the weather, our resistance softens. We may even notice the freshness it brings, or the way it nourishes the earth. In the same way, fear is one weather pattern of the mind, temporary, shifting, and shared by all who live. This realization brings a deep sense of connection. Too often, fear isolates us. We think, no one else knows what I'm going through, or something must be wrong with me for feeling this way. But the truth is, every human heart has trembled at uncertainty. Every soul has felt the grip of worry. When you recognize this, fear transforms from a private burden into a shared human experience. You are not alone. You are part of a vast community of beings who walk through fear and suffering together. Reflect for a moment. Imagine someone across the world, different culture, different language, different life circumstances, yet still lying awake at night worrying about the future, still fearing the unknown. This simple truth dissolves the walls of isolation. Your fear is not a personal failure, it is a thread woven into the shared tapestry of life. So how do we work with this understanding? Begin by observing your fear not as an enemy, but as a messenger. Instead of running from it, ask, what is this fear showing me about the human condition? Maybe it's showing you the preciousness of life, the fragility of relationships, or the impermanence of all things. In this way, fear becomes not something to suppress, but something to learn from. There is profound strength in knowing that fear is not unique to you. It humbles the ego and opens the heart to compassion. You begin to see that just as you suffer, others suffer too. This realization awakens empathy. the ability to reach out and support others, not from pity, but from genuine understanding. The Buddha once said, "Life is suffering," but this was not a statement of despair. It was an invitation to wisdom. When we see fear as part of life's shared reality, its power to isolate and overwhelm us diminishes. Instead of being paralyzed, we gain resilience. Instead of being trapped, we gain freedom through acceptance. This teaching is not meant to burden us, but to liberate us. By seeing fear as one small thread in the vast fabric of human suffering, we no longer have to fight it alone. We walk hand in hand with humanity, realizing that every trembling heart, every anxious breath is a reminder of our shared journey. And in that shared journey, there is strength, connection, and hope. Flowing from the wisdom of recognizing suffering as a shared human experience, let us now take a gentle step deeper into freedom. With that foundation of understanding, we will now move into the next part of today's video, releasing the chains of attachment. Fear often has a hidden root, one that grips the heart without us even noticing. Attachment. We cling to people, possessions, achievements, or even to the image we hold of ourselves. When life threatens to take these things away, anxiety rises like a storm. Think about it. So much of our fear comes not from what is happening right now, but from the possibility of losing what we believe we cannot live without. We worry about losing a loved one, losing a job, losing status, or losing control. Attachment, when held too tightly, becomes the breeding ground of fear. To let go of attachment does not mean becoming cold, careless, or indifferent. This is often a misunderstanding. True letting go is about releasing the illusion that our happiness depends entirely on things outside of us. It is realizing that clinging does not preserve joy. It suffocates it. For example, imagine holding sand in your palm. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips away. But when you open your hand, the grains rest there naturally. In the same way, love, success, and relationships thrive when there is space, not when there is suffocating grasp. Fear loses its grip when we understand this. Think of someone deeply afraid of losing their identity at work. Every project becomes a battlefield of anxiety because their self-worth is chained to outcomes. But if they release that attachment, understanding that their worth is not defined by success or failure, suddenly fear fades. They can give their best without drowning in the terror of loss. The Buddha taught that attachment is one of the greatest causes of suffering. Why? Because everything in life is impermanent. People change, possessions break, status shifts, even our bodies age and transform. To build our peace on something that inevitably changes is like building a home on sand. Fear will always arise when the waves come. But when we loosen our grip, we create a foundation of peace that no storm can wash away. Letting go does not mean abandoning love or responsibility. On the contrary, it means we love more freely. When we cling to someone, our love becomes about control, about keeping them, owning them, shaping them into what we want. But when we let go, love becomes pure, without fear. It says, "I love you as you are," and even if life changes, that love remains a gift. Such love is fearless, because it is not bound by conditions. This teaching also applies to our attachment to control. Much of our fear comes from the desperate need to manage every outcome. We plan endlessly, worry about every detail, and cling to the illusion that we can prevent uncertainty. But life by its nature is uncertain. The paradox is that the more we try to control, the less peace we have. Letting go of attachment to control is not passive, it is wisdom. It is the ability to act wisely in the present, while trusting the flow of life without grasping at guarantees. Practice letting go in simple ways. When you notice fear arising, pause and ask, "What am I clinging to right now?" Perhaps it is the need for approval, the desire for a perfect outcome, or the hope that nothing will change. Then gently release that grip. Breathe deeply and remember, life is always moving, always shifting. The more we allow it to flow, the more peace we discover. Letting go is not a single act, but a lifelong practice. Each time we release even a small attachment, we step closer to freedom. Fear loses its teeth because it no longer has something to hold over us. We no longer tremble at loss, because we see that true peace does not depend on what we keep. It depends on what we can release. So, releasing attachment is not about losing, it is about gaining. We gain space for joy, space for freedom, space for a fearless love of life. And in that spaciousness, fear dissolves, and the heart learns what it truly means to be free. Having learned the art of letting go and freeing ourselves from the chains of attachment, we are now ready to discover another quiet but powerful key to dissolving fear. With this gentle step forward, we will now move into the next part of today's video, the power of patience. So much of our fear comes from the restless urgency within us, the demand for instant clarity, immediate results, and quick solutions. We fear the unknown because we want answers right now. We fear challenges because we cannot yet see their outcome. This impatience magnifies fear, turning it into a constant shadow over our lives. But patience is like a lamp in the darkness. It does not erase the night, but it gives us the light to walk calmly, step by step. When we cultivate patience, we learn to sit with uncertainty, to breathe in the discomfort of waiting, and to trust that clarity will come in its own time. Instead of running from fear, we begin to walk beside it, watching how it changes, fades, and eventually dissolves. Think about the last time you rushed a decision because of fear. Maybe you worried about losing an opportunity, so you said yes when your heart was not ready. Or perhaps you feared being left behind, so you forced yourself into a path that did not feel authentic. Impatience feeds fear, while patience gives us room to see more clearly. With patience, we realize that what feels unbearable now often looks very different with time. Patience with ourselves is perhaps the most healing practice of all. Fear often whispers, "You are not enough. You are too slow. You are failing." When we make mistakes or stumble, impatience turns those moments into self-judgment and shame. But when we practice patience, we allow ourselves to be human. We recognize that growth takes time, that wisdom is carved slowly, like a river-shaping stone. Fear softens when we no longer punish ourselves for being imperfect. In Buddhism, patience is not passive waiting, it is active courage. It is the strength to endure discomfort without being consumed by it. Imagine a seed buried underground. In darkness, in silence, in pressure, it waits. If you dig it up too soon because you are impatient, it never grows. But if you trust its process, it breaks open, takes root, and one day blossoms into something greater than you imagine. Fear loses its grip when we honor the natural timing of life. Patience also transforms our relationships. Fear often shows up as irritation, frustration, or anger toward others. We fear being misunderstood, left behind, or disappointed, and impatience fuels conflict. But when we bring patience into a conversation, we listen more deeply. We give space for others to reveal themselves. We stop fearing that silence means rejection, or that delay means loss. Patience builds trust, and where there is trust, fear cannot survive. In modern life, everything pushes us towards speed. Messages demand instant replies. Goals demand immediate results. We measure success in how quickly things happen. But the heart does not grow on deadlines. Healing, forgiveness, and courage all move at the pace of patience. When we resist this truth, fear multiplies. When we embrace it, fear dissolves. So how can we practice patience in everyday life? Start small. When waiting in line, instead of feeling trapped, see it as a moment to breathe. When fear arises, pause before reacting. Say to yourself, "This too will pass." When you fail, remind yourself, "Every mistake is part of my unfolding." In these small acts, patience becomes strength, and fear loses its sharpness. Over time, patience becomes a quiet companion. It does not promise that life will be easy, but it gives us the resilience to face life without trembling. Patience teaches us that uncertainty is not an enemy, but a teacher. It shows us that fear fades when we stop demanding instant certainty. In the end, patience is not just about waiting, it is about trusting. Trusting life, trusting ourselves, trusting that even in moments of darkness, growth is happening. And when trust takes root, fear has no soil left to grow. And now, as we continue this journey, we arrive at the next teaching, the transformative power of compassion in overcoming fear. Think about this. Most fears grow stronger when we feel alone. Loneliness is like an echo chamber where our worries multiply. But compassion, as the Buddha taught, has the power to dissolve that loneliness. When we open our hearts to kindness, toward ourselves and toward others, we create a bridge that fear cannot easily cross. Compassion is not weakness. It is not about pretending everything is fine or ignoring difficulties. True compassion is strength in its most gentle form. It's the courage to stand with another person in their suffering and to whisper, "You are not alone." And in that very moment, we also remind ourselves, "I too am not alone." Imagine this. You're walking through a dark forest. If you're alone, every sound can feel terrifying. Every shadow feels like a threat. But if a friend walks beside you, the forest changes. The sounds are still there. The shadows still move. But your fear softens because you feel supported. Compassion works the same way, except that sometimes the friend walking with you is your own kind heart. The Buddha encouraged the practice of metta bhavana, the meditation on loving kindness. It begins with sending gentle wishes of safety, peace, and happiness to yourself. Then slowly, you expand this circle outward, to loved ones, to strangers, even to those you find difficult. With each breath, your heart widens, and your sense of isolation fades. Science today confirms what the Buddha already knew. Compassion meditation reduces anxiety, lowers stress, and strengthens emotional resilience. Why? Because fear shrinks in the presence of connection. When we cultivate compassion, we stop seeing others as threats and start seeing them as fellow travelers on the same uncertain road. Here's something powerful to reflect on. Fear often urges us to close off, to build walls. Compassion asks us to do the opposite, to open up, to extend warmth, to let the walls fall. And paradoxically, the more open our heart becomes, the less fear can control us. So next time fear arises, try this simple practice. Pause, take a slow breath, and silently repeat, "May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May others be safe. May others be peaceful." Feel the words like ripples spreading across a still pond. Fear cannot dominate in a heart that is actively radiating love. Through compassion, fear is not an enemy to be fought, but a teacher that invites us to grow deeper in kindness. And when you begin to see life through the lens of compassion, every challenge, even fear itself, becomes an opportunity to practice humanity at its highest level. And now we arrive at the final step of this journey, perhaps the most liberating of all: the wisdom of letting go and finding inner freedom. Fear often disguises itself as control. We cling to identities, relationships, outcomes, or possessions, believing that if we hold on tightly enough, nothing can slip away. But the truth, as the Buddha reminded us, is that nothing in this world is permanent. Success fades, failure fades. Even the emotions we feel in this very moment will eventually dissolve. When we see this clearly, fear begins to lose its grip. Letting go does not mean giving up or being passive. It is not about avoiding life or refusing to care. Instead, it is the courageous act of accepting reality as it is, without demanding that it obey our expectations. Think of it like holding water in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. But if you relax your palm, you can hold it gently for a while, appreciating its coolness before it naturally flows on. So much of fear is tied to what if? What if I lose my job? What if this relationship ends? What if people judge me? These thoughts are chains that keep us from breathing freely. But wisdom shows us that nothing, not even loss itself, can truly diminish who we are. The deeper self, the calm, aware presence beneath the noise, cannot be taken away. Imagine standing at the edge of a river, watching leaves float by. Each leaf is a thought, an expectation, a fear. If you reach out and try to grasp them, your peace is disturbed. But if you allow the river to flow, the leaves pass on their own. This is the practice of letting go, trusting the natural movement of life instead of trying to control every ripple. Psychology today echoes this ancient teaching. Studies on resilience show that those who adapt best to uncertainty are not the ones who force life into their plans, but the ones who release attachment and meet change with flexibility. They don't see impermanence as a threat, but as a reminder to live more fully. Here's something practical you can try. At the end of each day, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that no longer serves me? It could be a regret, a worry, or even a success that you fear losing. Take a slow breath, and with each exhale, imagine placing it down, like setting down a heavy backpack you no longer need to carry. Notice the space it creates within you. That space is freedom. Letting go is not a one-time act. It's a daily practice, beginning with small things. Release the need to replay an old conversation. Release the grip of negative thoughts. Release the idea that you must be perfect before you can be at peace. Each small release is like loosening a knot inside the heart. Over time, you will find yourself lighter, more open, and less controlled by fear. And here lies the profound truth. When you let go, fear has nowhere left to root itself. A heart that no longer clings becomes a heart that is free. Free to love without fear of loss. Free to live without fear of failure. Free to rest in the simple joy of being alive. The Buddha's final gift to us is this wisdom. Freedom is not found in gaining more control, but in releasing it. When you stop grasping, your hands are open, and open hands can receive the beauty of life with ease. So may you, each day, practice the art of letting go, not as an escape, but as a return to the peace, the freedom, and the unshakable joy that was within you all along. So here we stand, at the end of our journey through these 8 timeless Buddhist lessons: impermanence, illusion, mindfulness, suffering, letting go, patience, compassion, and inner freedom. Together they weave a path that transforms fear from a prison into a teacher, from an enemy into a guide. Fear is not here to destroy you. It is here to awaken you. Every trembling moment, every doubt, every restless night is a doorway, an invitation to step deeper into your own courage, your own peace. When we stop running from fear, we discover that it cannot harm us. It can only point us back to the strength we already carry within. Think about it. Everything you have ever feared, every storm you have ever faced has already passed. And yet, you are still here, stronger, wiser, more alive. The storms did not break you, they shaped you. And now you stand, not as a victim of fear, but as its master. What the Buddha offered is not just philosophy, but a living practice. To breathe into impermanence, to smile at the illusions of the mind, to sit in mindfulness, even when the heart shakes, to understand suffering as the common thread that unites all beings, to release what weighs you down, to wait with patience, to open with compassion, and finally to rest in the inner freedom that comes when nothing can bind you anymore. Imagine a life where fear visits but does not stay. A life where your heart is light, your mind is clear, and your spirit is unshakable. This is not a dream. It is possible if you choose to practice moment by moment, breath by breath. So tonight, I invite you. Pause for just 1 minute. Place your hand on your heart. Whisper to yourself, I am stronger than fear. I am free. Let that truth sink deep and carry it with you into tomorrow. And now I want to hear from you. Share in the comments. What fear are you ready to release today? Maybe it's the fear of failing, the fear of being alone, or the fear of not being enough. When you name it, you loosen its grip. And when we share together, we realize we are not alone. If this journey spoke to your heart, stay with me, because in the next videos, we'll continue exploring how Buddhist wisdom can heal, guide, and transform the way we live. There are deeper waters of peace and freedom waiting, and we will walk them together. So let us close not with fear, but with freedom, not with trembling, but with trust. And may the echo of these teachings remind you, you are not bound by fear. You are made for courage. You are made for peace. You are made for freedom.